Welcome, everyone. You are in the ins and outs of opening a B&B, guest house, Airbnb, VRBO, anything called short-term rental. This is the group. So we have Michael, and Michael, help me with your last name, Marcial?
That's really close. It's Marcial.
Marcial and Adam.Messmer. And so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about our group and what we are about. So who is the group for? It's for anyone wanting freedom of extra income or to develop a new career. What is it? It's an online meetup helping you with all the ups and downs and ins and outs of opening a short-term rental. When? It's always the fourth Tuesday of each month at 6 o'clock on a Zoom call, where you can attend from anywhere you happen to be. It's all online. And why? Because you want more freedom. It's everything you need to know. And so we interview someone different every month. And so tonight we have Michael. And how? Just RSVP for the meetup, and then you'll receive the Zoom code, just like all of you folks that are here so far. And it's for anyone who is or wants to be a short-term rental host, from bed and breakfast cleaners. It's also for handymen, contractors, short-term rental managers. All are welcome, because we want to elevate short-term rental standards. So here are some of our topics. We talk about, do you have what it takes? Property choices. Do you want to own it or just run it? Then how do you run an actual bed and breakfast? Branding, sales, marketing, managing your finances, calculating your room rate, and so much more. And then each meeting will have time to network and learn from the various speakers, and you can ask as many questions as you'd like. So we want to put that out to you. We do have a meetup group called the same name, and it's got the same little graphics. You can, I don't know if you can see there. It's me and Mr. Handsome Adam there in our little graphic. And so our Facebook page has that graphic, and our meetup page has that graphic. That'll let you know that you're on the right page. Our meetup group has 598 members currently. Our Facebook group has 308 members currently. Our podcast had 948 listens as of last month, and 152 have registered for this event tonight to either come in live or to follow up on the replay and listen to the replay if they couldn't make it in person. So that's where we are so far. So I want to start from the beginning, Michael. What made you decide that you wanted to get into the short-term rental business? Bring us up to that point to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Well, first and foremost, awesome to be here. I'm looking forward to having an awesome conversation. And yes, the more questions, the better. I think that's really good. But yeah, the thing that really got me interested was that, I run a few other businesses. So does my wife, in fact. And, we were just looking for ways to leverage the income that we had for the sole purpose of having our money make money for us. And that's the word freedom that you're looking for, just earn back a lot of our time that way. And that was the sole purpose. We have our own personal goals and things like that. So earning our time back from some of those activities definitely aligns there. So that really got me involved, not just with Airbnbs, but investing in other businesses, investing in general, really just to earn that time back.
I get it. So what was your background before you actually got started in this? I mean, what did you do before? I mean, what?
Sure. So
was there a segue there that worked? I was in long-term rentals, and so short-term rentals was not that hard of a segue for me.
Yeah, I think I might be a little different in that way, because I don't have like a background in real estate or loans or really much else other than when I was a kid, my grandmother was a phenomenal real estate agent. I just thought it was really cool. She had all these literature and books and all sorts of things about real estate. And I was like, this seems like a lot of fun. And that was it. That it was just planted in my head. And moving forward, I always had this entrepreneurial bug. And so I'd start businesses. I would just do anything that I could to get my hands dirty that way. And at some point about 10 years ago, I just got really aware that there's some really smart, amazing people out there that are doing really cool things in the real estate kind of world. And, for a second I thought, well, gosh, I guess that means I become a real estate agent, because that made sense. My grandma was, so that's the only job I knew of in the, that I could do, but it didn't make sense at the time. And I was growing a couple other businesses that took my time and attention. And a few years ago, about 3-4 years ago, I realized that one of my friends was starting up short-term rentals, and I was able to take him to dinner, ask him a bunch of questions, picked his brain. And I was like, you know what, for my wife and I now, that makes a ton of sense. So we hopped in and we've learned a ton. It's been a ton of fun. And yeah, we're super excited to share, whatever needs to be shared about it. Cause I think more people get to learn about this stuff.
What was that conversation like when you finally decided you were going to do the short-term rental? What was that like, across the kitchen table, so to speak?
Yeah. It was one of those things where my wife, she's primarily a personal trainer, and she has been for the last 5 years, started her own thing. It was incredibly difficult. It took a couple of years to get going. And the same happened with me, with several of our businesses. And so it was one of those things where, the conversation was very exciting. It was like, hey, we have cash to invest. We have the ability to do these things. And it could be one of those things that shorter term for us is an excellent use of our time and attention and our resources. And so it was just like one of those things where we've had plenty of conversations, and it's always like, maybe we're on the same page, maybe not. This is one of those things we were definitely on the same page with, and we jumped in. And so we're relatively new at the Airbnb side of things, but not to growing businesses or brand. Like my real history is in branding, marketing, and sales. I consult online entrepreneurs in that way. And so I was like, well, gosh, I guess we could probably turn us into our client and just do the same thing we've been doing anyway, and just have fun doing this. So it's been an exciting conversation to have. That kitchen table, like, it's now our war room. We go in, we have fun about this. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to reset the room for just a second. It sounds like my Wi-Fi might be a little wobbly. I have made Adam my co-host. So Adam, if for some reason I disappear off the screen, hang in there, keep going. I'll come back in. Sometimes my Zoom call, my Wi-Fi bumps me off of Zoom and I have to come back in. So if any of us disappear, the rest of us just stay where you are, because that just means that somebody got bumped off. So not a problem. And for those of you that are in the audience, type in the chat where you are listening from. Where are you? And Michael, where are you physically located?
Yeah, I'm based in Utah, just outside of Salt Lake.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. I am in Columbus, Ohio, just right outside of Columbus, Ohio. And Adam?
I am also in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah,
right,
Adam and I,
right smack dab in the middle.
Yep, we get to see each other every so often when we venture out. So anyhow, we've got let's see. We had a question here about what does Airbnb charge guest service fee? 14% question mark. I see this on some of my bookings, but not all. And it's his first month hosting. This is from Todd. So he's just asking if we have any answers on that. Joey is from Charlotte. Todd, Columbus, Ohio. Welcome, Todd. Sharon, Columbus, Ohio, too. We've got several callers on there. Where's everyone else from? Let us know where you're coming to us from. I don't see any other yet. Bear with me here. Nope, it looks like just those three answered so far. It's just kind of fun to see where everybody's coming from, and and when we get some questions as to how they got started and that sort of thing. But Michael, how did you find the perfect property? I started a little bit different than most folks. I started just having a room in my own house. And so I wasn't going out looking for that property. So how did you find the perfect property? Because a lot of our listeners today are newbies just getting started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a question I get all the time, because it's great to have the ambition or the idea or the want to do things like this, but if you don't find a property that you can do, or if you don't want to use a spare room or a guest house or something like that, how do you find properties? So for us, we got kind of smart about, well, actually we were kind of dumb about it, which is why we were smart about it. So we didn't know any better. And so what we did is we actually reached out to Airbnb and said, hey, do you have any like partners that you've partnered with that do Airbnbs, like apartment complexes, or what does that look like? And they said, well, yes, absolutely, we do. And so I said, amazing. Well, can you send us a list of properties in Utah specifically? And they sure did. They sent us a couple of property management companies that had apartment complexes and things like that, that they'd partnered with specifically for them to use some of their inventory for short-term rentals and Airbnb specifically. So that's exactly what we did. We reached out to a couple of those property management companies, and it was absolutely simple. They do take a percentage of what you do. But having said that, it's worth the ease of finding a new property.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that. I started, and then I'll let Adam share as well, but I started just with some rooms in my house. And then I did buy a condo, and I made sure that the HOA of the condo was short-term renter friendly. And so I did buy a 1-bedroom condo, and I'm getting that set up for traveling nurses on short-term rental. And then Mark and I just recently bought some acreage down in an area called Hocking Hills, south of us. And so we're currently working on that one. That one hasn't been launched yet, but that one is in the works. Jess says she is coming to us from Grove City. So welcome, Jess. Adam, how did you find your property?
Yeah, so my story started with house hacking. So we house hack a duplex in Clintonville, which is central Columbus, north central Columbus. And we got in at a great time. We bought in 2013, it appreciated, and we were able to use that, the appreciation from that in the form of an equity line of credit to get a down payment for a single family home. Originally, we were looking for a long-term rental, and it's funny because a friend of mine who was our realtor, she suggested, hey, the seller of this property says it would make a great short-term rental. Have you ever thought about that? And I went way back in my Rolodex of memory and remembered my buddy Ben Vale, who runs Hospitality, which is a local short-term rental management company. And so I said, no, but let me call him up. So I called him up and I said, hey, what do you think about this property? And so he ran quotes. He did a whole proposal based on what he would think it would make. And given those numbers, we decided to look in a nicer area. And we said, well, if we make this money here, what can we make with a couple more bucks down, across the freeway, so to speak? And so we ended up in the Old North Columbus. So it's kind of like a utilitarian play. Like nobody goes there just to stay there. They're usually in town for something specific, like a convention or for OSU or for what have you. But yeah, we launched in February of 2020, just in time for COVID.
Just in
time for COVID, guys. Yeah, that was a bummer, but luckily we survived it. We broke even in 2020, and 2021 was just killer. And my buddy Ben still manages it, and they're doing a killer job. I highly recommend using a management company because it can be a part-time job running these things. And I mean, unless you're on site, unless you're living in it, that's a different story. I mean, it's almost like house hacking your Airbnb or your short-term rental. When you can be right there and do everything. So it's a little bit different, but yeah.
I get it. So anyway, let us know in the chat if anybody already has a short-term rental, or whether you're totally a newbie and you're just collecting information so far. We'd love to hear from you in the chat to see if some of you already have some. And if you have some short-term rentals, give us the number. So anyway, I currently have 3, and if I count my condo in Florida, that would make 4. I did pay cash for a condo in Florida from the proceeds from the guest house. So yeah, so it is lucrative. And I did buy the condo down there in Sarasota. And we have to, because of the area that we're in the zoning, which we're going to talk about next, we have to live there for 24 months, use it as owner vacation property only before we're allowed to start using it on a short-term rental. So we're down to the last few months, and then we can start using it. So Jess says, newbie here, trying to get as much info as possible. Joey, looking to move out of my apartment by summer and turn it into a short-term rental. That's a good way to go. So anyway, Michael, did you have to worry, because now that you described how you got your properties, did you have to worry at all about the zoning, about, am I going to be allowed to short-term rent? And is there some zoning issues against it in the area that you're in?
Yeah, that's always a hot topic. You want to make sure that whatever property, whether you're buying or you're going the arbitrage method of leasing and subleasing, you've got to know that you're a-okay to do that. And that's pretty simple to find out. And so when we first set out on this venture, and really we're newbies at this ourselves, although I don't believe in going slow. That's not in my nature necessarily. So we started in September. We launched our first one, which was out of an apartment complex that had a deal with Airbnb to use a specific building just for Airbnb. And it's a 2-bed, 2-bath. They're already zoned for it. Everything's good on their end. So we didn't have to do much with that. And, the beautiful part about the arbitrage method for us is because we were new, we weren't sure if we wanted to go out and buy a property and try this out with our own understanding. So, for us, it, took a nice little chunk of money down to, with rent and furnishing and all that stuff. I think our first one, it was about $9,000 total to do all of that work. It was set. We launched, I think, August 1st, and we were booked out for a month and a half almost instantly. And the cool part is that each one of these properties, we have 3 now. We're picking up one every other month now. With those 3 properties, they'll net us anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 a month each, on top of profit wise, I guess. And so the beautiful part about that is the way that we've gone about it. And this is true if you go through like if you're doing apartments or townhomes or single family homes, that you're doing this arbitrage method of renting and subleasing. The zoning, it's really simple to find. Everybody has their own documents, their own contracts and agreements and paperwork, and it spells it out for you. So make sure to ask the question. If it's a phenomenal opportunity, even if you did the research, and this is like the golden child property and it's not zoned, don't worry about there's plenty of opportunity out there. It's not worth being in for even a year before somebody catches on, and then you have some pretty major headaches. It's just not worth it. Just find a great property with appropriate zones and permits, and have at it. Like this, it's too easy to do that.
Well, Joey wants to know, do you guys use websites like AirDNA, VRBO, or to analyze your deals? How reliable would you say they are? Or are there any suggestions for gathering the data?
Yeah. AirDNA is a good one. We've used that ourselves. I mean, we're looking in our area currently. So 2 are in Salt Lake proper, and 1 is about 20 minutes south of Salt Lake. Kind of in a similar idea as you, Adam, where it's like, if you're going there, it's because it's a convention or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we know that we're familiar enough with the area. And so that's easy, but going on AirDNA, now you can see how many places, our active rentals are in your area. You can see their average nightly rates. You can see occupancy. You can see all those kinds of details to give you the real information, not just, oh, I like this area, or it's a pretty area, or it's a nicer kind of spot. Because there's some places that really surprised me here in Utah that we're heavily considering now, just because we wouldn't have guessed otherwise. So yeah, use that information, but even with that, you still have to find properties that fit the bill in those areas, so you've got to do the research up front. Otherwise, none of the other stuff matters.
So yeah. I have a comment about using AirDNA, and I need to give a disclosure because I'm wading into like advertising a little bit. No, so just to let you know, I am a mortgage loan officer with Motto Mortgage. My NMLS number is 980-119. So all that said, AirDNA, it's funny you bring up AirDNA because we have a lender that will use AirDNA projections for qualifying income for a loan for either a purchase or a refi on a short-term rental, which is killer. So they'll take AirDNA's income projection for the property. They'll give it a 30% haircut, and then they want you to hit what's called a 1.2 debt service coverage ratio, meaning you're making 20% more than what the all-in mortgage payment is. If you do that and you've got like a 720-ish credit score, with reasonable history, then you can pretty much get a loan. I mean, it's that easy.
Using your short-term rental as the collateral.
Using the short-term rental as collateral and there's no W-2s, no pay stubs, no tax returns. It's amazing. And they'll do that. That lender will work in about 35 different states.
All right. Now, so listen, folks, for those of you that are on the call, pay attention to what he said. They take the AirDNA income projection, give it about a 30% haircut, which means they're going to take about 30% off of that, assuming that maybe you don't have quite the occupancy that AirDNA says you might have. And then if you have what, a 720 with like 3 trade lines. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good to know. Good to know. Roberlina,
I'll just say this too. Oh, go for it. I was just gonna say from regular guy over here, I think that sounds awesome. Like if you're gonna be buying a place, like that seems like a really freaking great thing.
Yes, I think so too. Roberlina put a question over in the Q&A, and Roberlina, we're monitoring the chat, but I did see that you put a question there. She said, what's the process of starting Airbnb for a beginner? But before we answer that, Joey says, I'm more interested in arbitrage, but does that mortgage company cover and NC? Joey, what is NC?
North Carolina.
Oh, in North Carolina. Okay.
Which is interesting that he brings that up because North Carolina is one of the trickier states. So some of the states have really particular laws on whether or not you can broker loans in those states. So I am checking right now, but I will put a pin in that and I'll get right back to you.
Okay, so while Adam is checking on that, the next question for Michael, and then we're going to cover Robalina's question in the same answer, is how do you get your bookings? Do you just use Airbnb? Do you use other online travel agencies? And then since you started with Airbnb, describe the process for Robalina on how you started out on Airbnb.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. So do we use websites? We don't currently. We haven't needed to. I think we did a really great job between my wife and I finding the right properties. And through Airbnb, that's where we started initially. We had really decent booking, like 75, 85% booking occupancy rate. And we were good with that. And on the same token, we were like, well, there's no real need for us to have any openings. So let's put this on VRBO. We did the same thing. We connected the calendars and we've picked up, probably honestly with where we're at, sometimes, VRBO is like the thing out here. Airbnb is like the thing. So we've picked up probably 25 or 50% of our otherwise open dates, that 20 or 25% that wasn't booked through VRBO. So we're super, super stoked with that. And so we don't currently use we don't have direct bookings, for a few reasons. It's easy to go through those sites because they carry a lot of insurance and coverage and benefit by doing that. And that actually also ties into Todd's question about the guest service fee. So when you're booking, the guests will pay essentially Airbnb fees and additional taxes and things like that. So that's what it is. It depends it actually depends sometimes even where they're coming from. But having said that, that's what it is. And it goes to Airbnb. So the guest is paying that. You won't receive that number. So it'll show you how much the guest paid and how much the payout is for you. And those of course are different, but so we don't use a direct booking website. And the process for us was fairly simple. And I'll break it down this way. Number one, we needed to do the research. We needed to find the right location and then the right property. So the research upfront was paramount. That took us really, 3-4 weeks, even though we knew that which properties we could just jump into. We were looking outside of just the Airbnb suggestions that we had gotten. And so that took us about 3 or 4 weeks. And then from there, it was furnishing, and I'm not sure if she was interested in arbitrage, but for us, we had to cover the cost of furnishings, first and last month's rent, deposit, and all in. Like my wife, I'm going to give her praise. Like she finds some deals like on furniture and stuff. And so otherwise I was like, I have a budget of like 15, 20 grand. And she's like, I don't think so. And I'm like, Cool. All right. Tell me more. And she got a total about $9,000. And when you really think about it, that same property will net us about $1,000 to $1,500 a month. I'm good with that. That means in 9 months, boom, taken care of on the investment. Everything's gold after that. And so, but the cash flow has been awesome. But we had to do the research first to find the right property. Once we did that, we had to get cracking on some furnishing. And I'm going to tell you, the better design quality you can have, the more aesthetic appeal you can have, the better, the higher, even slightly higher rates can change your numbers for your year. And so we've done a really good job there. Our third property that we just launched last week is by far the best. Like she calls it boho chic. Google it. I didn't know what that meant, but it's beautiful. It's got a really cool like egg hanging basket chair thing, and it's like super, super cool. But it's really, really simple to do that. And it's a lot of fun. So you have to, make sure you furnish it. And then 3, it's making sure you have some stellar copywriting and photos. Make sure it looks good. It sounds good. It's appealing. And other than that, like, be smart about it. Run it as a business. Make sure you're taking care of your guests. For us with arbitrage, I'm going to tell you, it's really cool because anything that goes wrong in the apartment, we have 3 apartments now, 2 bed, 2 baths, all of them, because it's the best return out here in where we've gotten these properties. We don't have to fix any of that. We don't have to be on site. We don't have to do much. We put in a service ticket. And it's done. Clogged drain, done. Garbage disposal, done. And so that's been super, super nice. If we didn't have that, I would be property manager, please, like absolutely 100% of the time. And that's really what the apartment complexes are kind of doing. That's a lot of what they're doing. But if you can nail those 3 things, you've got yourself an amazing, amazing cash flowing property, whether you arbitrage or purchase.
Great information. So I hope everyone's taken some notes. Todd made a note over in the chat, and I overlooked it. He said he got an email from Adam's lender that will loan him $180,000 on a new property. He said he's had for several months. So we'll just toss that out there. It's a little off topic right at the moment, but I wanted him to know that I did see that. Sharon says, does Airbnb send statements for taxes or what? Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You will get a 1099 at the end of the year. Robolina, yes, I'm interested in arbitrage, but since I'm 18 years old, with baby credit, it's a bit hard, and I live in Fort Lauderdale. Leasing properties are a bit difficult because she gets turned down. And she also was wondering, is she old enough to get a loan, Adam?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're 18,
okay,
you can potentially qualify. Now, if you don't have any credit, then that's a different story. So I mean, my background is in banking and wealth management, private banking. And so we have this conversation often with folks, and it's like, okay, how do you establish credit? One thing that you can do is go to your local bank, get a secured credit card, right? So a secured credit card is where you put money down, and then that is your credit limit. So you put $250 down or $500 down or $1,000 down. That's your credit limit, right? Do that for a year, right? Don't, go out and buy a tank of gas and then pay it off. That's all you got to do, so that you're showing that you're not going above 50% of the credit limit and you're paying it every month. If you do those 2 things, that will do a tremendous job on your credit and will increase it substantially. So do that. Ideally, most lenders want to see about 3 trade lines. So that could be an auto loan, a student loan, and a credit card, for instance. Mm-hmm. You never have to carry a balance on a credit card. That's like, if anybody tells you that, that's a myth. Just make sure that you're paying it off every month. You're not going over 50% of the credit limit. But if you do those things, I mean, in a very short amount of time, you will be credit worthy and you'll be able to get loans pretty handily.
Great advice. I remember when Mark and I got together, I started working on his credit. And then, when you go in on your bank statement, sometimes it'll say, click here to see your FICO score. And I thought, I'll be doggone if his credit score is going to get better than mine. I did too good of a job. His credit score was really popping up there. But anyway, it can be done. So, and that's how you do it, is you just have to have your due diligence there. And it takes, like Adam said, maybe a year. And so, start the plan now so that you are ready. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, and there's so much opportunity. The coolest part when I started to, and I say I, but it's really my wife and I, when we as a unit, when we started doing this and we started telling friends and family about this, they had a ton of amazing questions, a lot of similar questions, honestly. And some of them have great credit, some of them don't. And there's also a ton of the people in our world that have cash to invest. They don't either have credit, time, or the ability to do any of the work. And so it would be really rather simple to partner with somebody that has cash that they'd be willing to invest rather. And you're putting in the time to find the locations, get the furniture, do all the stuff. And you could split it 50-50. It could be your significant other. It could be friends, family. It could be a close friend. There's a lot of people with cash looking to invest, whether you know them or not. There are a lot of people that are looking to do something like this and they just never would. And you could be the key at 18 years old. I wish I was 18 years old thinking about this. You know what I'm saying? I'm literally 37, going to be 38 in December this year. So 20 years ago, if I could have been doing this is amazing. So you have such opportunity in front of you. In Fort Lauderdale, I can imagine it's probably pretty awesome down there. So if you can't find somebody with some cash, or if you can't figure out how to get a loan, or you don't want to wait a year, whatever, hit me up. We could talk about something, because we're looking to every other month we're picking something up. There's too much opportunity out there. So I'm sure somebody. If you don't, hit me up.
Well, and you know what? I am going to toss out this comment as well. Include it in your conversation, because you never know who you're going to run into. So, when you're at the coffee shop, when you're at the library, when you're, in a social gathering, include it in your conversation. So when someone says, hey, what is it that you're doing now? You can say, well, I'm looking for a private money lender to help invest in my real estate investments. And just, tweak a little phrase there that you can kind of use where you're just kind of inserting it into the conversation. And I think you'll be amazed at how many people will say, tell me more. And so anyhow, she said she doesn't want to disrupt what you guys had planned for the webinar, but is there any chance you can analyze an example deal? I'd like to see your thought process and the numbers that you're looking for. You know what? Hold on to that question. We'll come back to that one. That's a great idea. And then Michael said, okay, he put in his information there. Good. I was going to ask for your contact information. I want to talk just briefly, and I know that Michael probably isn't using a channel manager because he has connected his Airbnb with the VRBO. Adam, of course, is using a property management company, but I am not. Mine is in my home. I have a 4-bedroom house. I've converted it into a guest house. We have an owner's suite in the back, so we are separate. There is a locked door in between. And then the whole front of the house is the guest house. So it's almost like a separate house. And all of that is for our guests. And I am actually on Airbnb. I'm also on booking.com and Expedia, Travelocity. I'm on all of those, and I use a channel manager. There are 2 top ones that I researched out for those of you that are maybe in an area where, like Adam and I, where it's not really the destination. People are coming here because they're going somewhere in the area and they just need a place to stay for a couple of days. And so it's not like they're coming to our guest house and we're the event. They're coming to a different event and just staying over with us. And so with that said, we bring folks in from all those channels. And when I researched it, the 2 channel managers that I came up with was Cloudbeds and Little Hotelier. Those were the 2 that seemed to come up more often. I chose Cloudbeds. I don't know that one's any better than the other. I'll just toss it out there. And what a channel manager does is once you start to put your property on more than one channel, you connect it, if you will, to this channel manager. And then you only function with the channel manager or your property management company. And a lot of times the property management company has a channel manager that they'll have you connect to, and then they can advertise you on several different channels. But if you're going to do your own, just know that that's an option. Just know that that's out there so that you don't end up double booking, because that gets a little stressful if you have, Airbnb and booking.com has somebody book the same property at the same time for the same night, and all of a sudden they both come in, 3 minutes ahead of the other one, now you've got a problem on what you're going to do with that second guest. So I'll just toss it out there that there is such a thing, and you can research that on your own or connect with me if you want, and I'll put my contact in the chat as well. So Michael, describe a check-in for you. How does a check-in go for you, so that you can be more passive and more hands-off?
Yeah, it's super easy. With the way that we've set it up currently is that we just use lock boxes. We'll probably end up using smart locks at some point. But quite frankly, the first one that we ran, we were like, this is a test run for us. We want to see if this is going to work for us. That was really our thought process. And so we use, it's pretty hands off. So the through Airbnb, they'll get automated messages prior to check-in with all the super detailed instructions, plus the code for the lockbox, which is literally right next to the door. And so it's been super simple. We've never had a key lost yet. So that's good, knock on wood. And so they just literally flip the code in, get the key, they're in. They've got the electronic pass to the pool, hot tub, gym, business center, all that stuff. And that's it. So it's super hands off, easy. We've automated everything because I personally am very busy. My wife runs a personal training business. And so we don't have a whole lot of hands-on as far as that's concerned, but it's super easy on check-in.
Perfect. I'm putting some information in the chat. My contact information is there. Somebody said, what were the channel managers? Cloud Beds and Little Hotelier were the two that I found. So what do you do in the actual unit for breakfast? Because it's called Airbnb, which a lot of people think of, air, bed and breakfast. And so do you put food in the units? And if so, what do you have in there for your guests? What amenities do they have?
Yeah. So as far as that's concerned, some units, they take that B&B, title very specifically and straightforward. They'll have breakfast foods. We don't necessarily do that just because we found that the people that are traveling and using our units are not necessarily there for that kind of an experience. But what we do is we have a nice little snack bowl with salty and sweet snacks and waters and a nice coffee machine and things like that. One of them, our new one, has an espresso maker and stuff. So we want to make sure people feel really good when they come in. They can have whatever they want. We conveniently leave our remainder snacks visible. So if they need more, they want more, they know that they have access to that. We don't mind that. Like, when we're traveling, we want to, we understand, like, you're not going to have a stocked fridge and you don't have the same kind of amenities as you, I guess, would at home. And so we want to make sure people are taken care of. And we've gotten some really phenomenal feedback there. And then besides food, like we have some pretty nice stuff in the unit, like hair dryers and straightening irons and makeup removers and all sorts of, nice things that may be missing elsewhere. So we kind of stock it with some niceties, and we just try to make it feel good. Like I'm going to tell you, like our newest unit, Oakley, my wife, she like nailed it. Like, this is a place I would love to stay at. Our other places are super nice too, but we're just getting better and better over time. It's like, wow, that's a hot property. But as long as you're doing things like that and you're clear about what you do and do not offer, like that's the biggest thing. You don't want somebody showing up thinking bed and breakfast, but there's no breakfast, right? So we're very clear on what we have there, what we don't have. But communication is key. But yeah, you can't go wrong with some snacks, some Oreos. I'm a sweet guy, so anything sweet, I'm already happy. I'm giving you 5 stars.
Yep, I get it. I also have it in my description. I'll since we're talking about Airbnb, I'll use that as a generality, that on my Airbnb profile, I have a description of what comes with the room when they rent the room. And then in my entrance parlor that comes in to the 3 rooms, because I have 3 guest rooms off the entrance parlor. Once you come into the entrance parlor, there are snacks there. I have cookies and and tea and coffee when they come in during check-in time. And then in the mornings, I actually put out pastries and a fresh fruit bowl and flavored coffees and all the different flavored teas and all the different flavored creamers, all that foo-foo stuff. And then I send out, as soon as I get an actual reservation, I do send out through the channel, I do send out a welcome letter. And the welcome letter, again, gives them their entrance instructions, gives them the code to get through the door, and it tells them what all they're going to find in the room. I discovered, and Michael, maybe you can speak to this too. I discovered that if folks get what they were expecting, you get a better review. It's when they don't get what they were expecting they were going to get is when they go, I was expecting to get this and it wasn't there. So that's why I spell out in my welcome letter everything that they're going to get. And so Michael, talk to that for a moment, and then we'll go over to Adam to see what his management company does.
Yeah. It's, it always comes down to communication. I think that's it. If you've ever traveled to a hotel, Airbnb, VRBO, booking.com, any site, and you've shown up and it's different than what you expected, you know, whether it's a major issue or it's just a minor inconvenience, you don't love that feeling, right? So for us, it's the same thing. We've taken pictures of everything that you would care to know about, including the detailed instructions. We have pictures of showing, staircases and lock boxes and doors and numbers and parking and everything that you would need, so that there is no question about it. So that's got to be number one. You got to be really clear about what it is and what it's not, because we've never had somebody say, "Oh, I thought something different." It's been they're usually like we're under promising, over delivering in a majority of that. And so as long as you're really clear about those things and you've got some niceties, like I want to come to your place too, like cookies and fruit, like drop the link, like let's go. I'm actually originally from Chicago, so I can come out that way anyway.
There you go.
But yeah, as long as you're super clear with that stuff, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, we're in an 1865 historical house in a historical downtown of a little village, very walkable, with outdoor cafes and coffee shops. And then of course with the house, we've got the wrought iron fence and the gas lights and the 1865 look. And so then we've actually outfitted the house with furniture that also fits that era. And then the bedrooms, of course, are very comfortable. And then we provide the continental breakfast and so that's our version of breakfast, because again, a lot of folks, sometimes they have to catch a flight, or, they don't have time to sit down and actually have a breakfast. And that's not why they're here. So Adam, what does your management company do for the amenities or the food portion in yours?
Sure. Yeah. So there's coffee, and then there's everything that you would need to cook a meal. So there's all the utensils and everything so it's a fully stocked kitchen as far as pots, pans, and utensils and everything that you would need there. And beyond that, there's like salt and pepper and stuff like that. And he might have a spice rack in there. I forget, but that's one of the beauties of being an owner that isn't a manager, is I don't really know. I don't do anything. It's the closest thing. I mean, in real estate, you talk about eventually getting to mailbox money, where you have triple net lease places, Kathy, right?
Right.
Don't you have in the salons? Yeah. So she'll tell you about that in another story. But when you have short-term rentals that are run by a management company, I mean, it really is the closest thing to mailbox money that you can get. Like I haven't done anything, and it's fantastic, and I exactly want it that way. But to answer your question, beyond food, they're going to have things like, because there's a washer and dryer there, so there's detergent, so that's handy. And then there's also, I think they've got shampoo and conditioner and soap as well. So those are handy little things to have. But other than that, we're like across the street from a grocery store. So people, like, we get a lot of folks, because we're right next to OSU campus, the Ohio State campus. So we get a lot of folks that will come into town to like hang out with their kids for a week or something. And so they'll just go load up on groceries and then cook the whole time that they're there. So
I love it. So you can see where all three of us are doing the same thing, but we're all doing it in such a different way. And that's the superpower of these short-term rentals, is that you can put your personality on that and do it the way you like to do it. So let's talk about linen and supplies and all of that. Number one, where do you get your stuff from? And I asked Adam this question one time, and he's like, I don't know, my management company did it. Don't you love that? But
It's magic.
yeah, it's just magic. But where do you get all of that? And how often do you have to replace some of that stuff? What's the conversation around that?
Yeah, super simple. We love Amazon. So, we've gone local, like there's a lot of local places that we can go and we have gone. But we found some really great quality stuff, great prices on Amazon. And it does make it really simple for us because we live close enough. We're within 20 minutes of all three of these properties. And we're planning on that for at least the foreseeable future. When we're going to start venturing out, maybe Fort Lauderdale. Hello, holla at me. But, with that, Amazon makes it really simple. And that's what we're planning for, because we've now found some really great stuff that we know the next property, we know the linens, we know decor, we know what we're going to do for all of those things. And so it makes it really simple. But my philosophy that way is anything somebody that's coming to stay at our place, anything that they can touch, it better be great. That's how I like it. If it's going to be the bed or the linens or towels or soap or body gel or shampoo, conditioner, things that are going to be high touch should be high value, high quality. And everything else, you can get a little bit more frugal on if you're looking at it, numbers wise. But having said that, if we're going to touch it, we might want it to be really nice. So Amazon has been really good for that. We have our own little spreadsheet with all the stuff that we've ever gotten that we like, and we just replace, if we find something better or different, we'll just replace it on the list and we order it the next time. Replacing things, yeah, you're going to replace things like cups, like anything glassware that could get broken. Sometimes towel, if it's like heavily soiled, makeup, all sorts of things. Sometimes sheets, like we have 3 sets of sheets per unit because it's easy to replace one, wash one, and you have one in spare at all times. So if something does go wrong and we have a changeover like really quick, it can be done. But yeah, anything, like I said, basic rule of thumb for us, if it's going to be high touch, it's going to be high quality. That's it. And we go all in right up front, and we don't have to worry about it too much after that.
Great conversation. I agree. It has to look nice. It has to be nice. And I'll just add to that. One thing that I've noticed is that sometimes, you see your linen every day, you see your towels every day. And if you're the one that's doing your own cleaning, and I'm doing my own cleaning. And I think what happens for some of us that are doing it and seeing it all the time and every day, we don't realize how tired it might start to look.
That's a good point.
And so I try, and what really works well for me is because we bought the condo in Florida, so I actually can leave for 10 days. And when I come back, I try to look at my guest house as if I were a guest. What would my impression be walking in for the first time? And if something is starting to look a little worn or a little tired, it might be very clean, but if it's starting to look a little tired, it's time to replace it. Because that does make an image and an impression on your guest, and that will definitely reflect in your reviews. And reviews are everything in this business, because I don't know about you, but when I travel, the first thing I do is I check out the reviews online and see what the reviews are. And I don't mind so much if there's a bad review in there, if the owner has responded to it in a positive way. And so if you get a bad review, and on your own short-term rental, make sure that you respond to your future guests, not to the guest that gave you the bad review. I had a guest one time that said, and I'll give you an example. I had a guest one time that said, this house was in a bad location. Really? Well, what that meant to a lot of people reading that was it not safe? Was it a really bad part of town? Was it, what made it bad? Well, what the person meant was it was too far from the freeway because they had to catch a flight the next day, and so, but it was my opportunity to say, I had to really think about it, but it was my opportunity to say, while I realized that we're 8 miles away from the freeway, and I realized that that probably was bad for you since you had to catch a flight. We are in a historic town with a historic property, with walking distance, with cafes and coffee shops. And I was able to turn that bad review into a marketing opportunity. And so just keep that in mind as you're getting reviews. But if you get one, they say your linen was kind of lousy, and your linen is kind of lousy, then it's time to update some of that. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. Adam, I'm going to go over to you for a minute. You're getting some comments in the chat about loans and lending and all of that. And I'm going to let you talk to that for just a minute.
Yeah, loans are the best. I love loans. I'm a big fan, and I love talking about them. So Joey asked, he said that he's a broker in North Carolina, and he's wondering if his clients can refinance out of hard money into the loan program that I've been discussing. And he has a few investors looking specifically for Airbnbs. Yeah, absolutely. So this particular lender, I was emailing him just now, and we are good for North Carolina. He'll do 75% of the lesser of 75% of the appraised value, or purchase price plus a verifiable rehab cost as the maximum loan amount. If you've owned it within the first year. I did just pick up another lender within the last week or so that as we've been talking about this, I remembered they will also do short-term financing. They're going to use they're not going to use AirDNA for the projection, but they're going to qualify it based off of market rents. So if the market rents can still support it, then there might be another option. And this other guy, he's doing 4-month seasoning. So at 4 months, he'll use the full appraisal value, 75% cash out, with no caveats about purchase price or rehab budget. So that's pretty cool. Man, I mean, that's what I love about being a broker is every day, we literally had a wholesale lender walk in the other day and said, hey, can we tell you about our stuff? And we're like, okay. And they started filling a niche that we didn't have, and is the best. So even if I don't have something right now, I'm probably going to have it in a month. Like, hopefully, if enough people ask me for a particular loan type, we will come up with a solution for you. And it's so cool. I don't know. I love it.
Perfect. We're going to reset the room again one more time. This is the ins and outs of how to start an Airbnb, a guest house, VRBO, anything short-term rental we're talking about today. And we have Michael with us. He is talking about how he got started. And Adam is with us, who is also a mortgage lender. And I am a passive income coach, and I also have short-term rentals. So all 3 of us have rentals, and all 3 of us are kind of in that lane. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And for the replay, I'll just announce to everybody, it's under Kathy Benner International Academy. When you go to the Kathy Benner International Academy, you can see my name here. When we're on the screen, we look like Hollywood Squares. I'm dating myself. How many remember Hollywood Squares? Yeah. Young people are like, no, I don't remember that. Anyway,
you're the center square for sure.
Yeah, so Hollywood Squares here. Anyway, you can see my name there, Kathy Benner. And if you just type in Kathy Benner International Academy on any of your search engines, it will come up. You do have to register to get into the academy. They're just going to ask you for your email address and a password. And so once you get into the academy, you can scroll down and you'll see I've got 8 different lanes. I've got free replays on every lane. Just scroll down to the ins and outs of opening a short-term rental there, and you'll find all the replays that we've done from the whole time since we got started. So feel free to go there and get your replays. If not, just connect with me, kathybenner.com. I'll get you over to the right section to get the replay, because I want everybody to be able to get that.
And Kathy, Robalina, she's asking, is anybody want to be a mentor? I mean, that's really what the academy's for, right?
Yes, that's what the academy is for. Please connect with me. There's a course there, and there's also a mastermind group. So connect in the academy. Send me a note through kathybenner.com. I would be happy to. And I am actually in Florida, in Sarasota, opposite side of the state from you at Fort Lauderdale, but I am in Sarasota almost every month for about 10 days. So I would be happy to meet up and mentor you. So thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about the cleaning. All right, I do my own. I do have a girl that comes in twice a month, and she does, I'll call it the deep cleaning. She does the ceiling fans. She does all the baseboards, she does all of that, the crawling around on the floor. But in between, I do the flips in between. And because I can, run the sweeper, do the Swiffer duster a little bit, and make the beds, wipe down the bathrooms. And of course, because I have a lot of folks that are traveling through, I do some one-nighters. I do accept one-night stays. A lot of Airbnbs do not, but I accept one-night stays. I have a lot of 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights. I very rarely have a week stay. And here is my observation, and maybe Michael and Adam can speak to this as well. My observation is when the shorter the stay, the less cleaning there is, because they haven't had time to really mess it up too badly. And so a lot of times I go in and I'm like, did somebody really stay here last night? I look around the room and I'm like, I don't think they used the shower. So anyway, I wipe everything down, change all the linens, change all the towels out, refresh the coffee, and takes me about 30 minutes per room. And so, on a really hard, it's hard to feel sorry for me. On a really tough day, I have to work an hour and a half. Yeah, on a really tough day. So, Michael, how about you?
Sorry to hear that.
I know.
Yeah. When we first started, we didn't have any other solution. My wife, her mother actually ran a cleaning company for many years, and so Oakley is like phenomenal. Like, talk about the deep clean. She will do exactly that and then some. And so we're like, why don't you, she really wanted to. She's like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to make sure it's good. Nothing's broken. The bed isn't stolen. There isn't a child still hiding out somewhere. I want to make sure we're going to be good. And so she did probably the first month and a half. She did all the cleanings. She kept the cleaning fee. She liked it. Because we do have some one-nighters. Most of the time it's like between 2 and 5 nights. We've had some that have stayed for 45 nights. In fact, so we're okay. Like it happens that way. But yeah, probably the first month and a half she did it herself. And then we found somebody here locally that is available to do all 3 of our properties. And she's been awesome as well. But there are some other kind of service providing websites like Turnover B&B. You can sign up for that, and it'll pretty much bid out your cleaning for you. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it through Airbnb or anything that has a cleaning fee attached to it, and you're doing the cleaning, well, you're just keeping more profit. If you have the time to do it, awesome. Why not? But yeah, no, it's been fairly straightforward. There was one of our good friends, I think it was 2 years ago, that had somebody spill some wine, I think, on their carpet downstairs. And luckily enough, Airbnb, they provided the cost to replace all of the carpet upstairs and down. So you do have some coverage that way, which is really cool. But it's, at least for us, it's been very infrequent. It's been very simple, very easy.
Yeah, I agree. Adam, how about you? And again, I know you've got the management company. Isn't it a wonderful thing?
It's the best. It's the best. I mean, I've never changed a sheet. I've never done anything. It's the best kept secret. I get how, like, okay, it's like, oh man, I want to do it all myself, so I keep all the money. But then you got to ask yourself, okay, what's your time worth?
Mm-hmm.
And my time's worth 25%, easy. Like, I mean, I probably pay more than that. Don't tell my management company that, but I pay more because I don't have to ever deal with it. So from that perspective, I mean, it's pretty killer. Yeah. So I wish I had more to contribute to the day to day. Like, I could talk about the financing, and I could
see Adam over there like, what is cleaning like?
I don't even know. It's like, look, no calluses, never a day of hard. It's the best. I love it.
Oh, that's wonderful. And for those that are doing all of it themselves, they wish they were more like you, I'm sure.
It really, I mean, figure, because here's the other thing. When you're doing your numbers, pay yourself. So when you're doing your numbers, make sure that you are factoring in a management fee, even if you don't use a manager. Because if you don't do that, then you're not factoring in your own income.
Right. Correct.
So if it works with a manager, see if it works with the manager. If it works with the manager, definitely do it, because then it frees you up to go find more deals instead of going and changing sheets or doing whatever, right? But if for whatever reason you're not going to use a manager, then by all means factor that in there so that you can pay yourself. And like my guy, for instance, is 25%. If you go to a destination place, like for instance, Hocking Hills, a lot of which is that's a beautiful vista right near Columbus, Ohio. There's a lot of vacation homes there. You're paying like 40%.
Yes. And we just bought some property there, and we're definitely going to use a property management company there, because I'm not going to run to Hocking Hills every time somebody leaves on a short-term rental down there. And
Sure.
Yes, it's 40%, and it's well worth it for us, because the gal that we've talked to already that charges 40%, she has a maintenance person on staff, and she has her cleaners on staff. And so a lot of times if the toilet's leaking or the faucet's leaking or whatever, she just handles it. And so how good is that? And you'd hate to have a property down because your cleaner goes, oh, I went in and somebody broke the faucet. And now you got to call plumbers, and you got to figure out, and they can't get out there for 3 days. And now you've got to move guests because you had check-ins. Again, you don't want to do all that. So I get it. That's great advice. And yeah, it's worth the difference for the property management, especially if you're not close. If you're close and can handle it, and you have a little bit of that skill set, is one thing. But if you don't, it's going to cost you more in your lost customers than paying somebody to handle it at the time. And speaking of customers, who handles the problem customers? Have we had any problem customers? How about you, Michael?
Ooh, we had an almost problem customer. Yeah. He had booked, I think it was a 30 some night stay. And, right up front, I could tell there was a little, there could have been, some telltale signs. And we're like, you know what, it was when we were still rather new, and we're super excited. And so we made it work for this guest. And about halfway through, he said that, they had some sort of emergency and he needed to leave, and asked if, actually, no, that's not true. He didn't ask if we could refund the last half. He went through Airbnb, didn't even communicate with us about it. And Airbnb reached directly out to us and said, hey, this guest is looking to leave halfway through and get a refund, but we have a strict no refund policy because we are heavily booked. And so we thought that was really interesting. So I reached out to him. I don't, it's so crazy. I mean, it's fairly hands off. So it's not a whole lot of work, but I'm a good communicator. So I reach out to him and say, hey, it sounds like you've had something come up. Unfortunately, we can't necessarily offer a refund, but a solution that we had come to is that if you actually do leave and we put this back on, available, I'd be happy to refund anything that gets rebooked. I think that's fair. You had an emergency. I'm a human too. I get it. And so, but he ended up staying. Crisis averted, left us a good review. So, fingers crossed, nothing too crazy. But I've heard some really crazy things out there. But I'm going to tell you, we took that into account up front. We have some nice properties. And we have a good faith that the people that are coming to stay with, they're vetted through the sites, and we feel good about it. But so far so good on our end.
And I have to agree. I've been doing this since October of 2016, so I've been doing it for a while. Did I freeze? Nope. Can you still see me?
Yep.
Hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, I've been doing this since October of 2016, and I haven't really had a bad guest either. I've had a couple of guests that were a little odd, and of course that's all relative, because maybe they thought I was a little odd. I don't know.
Sure.
But anyway, other than that, we really haven't had a bad guest. We really haven't had any bad reviews. We've had some that, take it kind of personal, especially if you're doing all of your own work and your own cleaning and your own decorating and your own everything. And then they go, well, like the one that said it was in a bad location. I'm like, you don't have Google Maps. What do you mean it was in a bad location?
Yeah.
But again, I turned that into an opportunity to do a little bit of marketing about what we did offer. for future guests. So keep that in mind anytime if, and again, reviews are all relative. I mean, what somebody thinks is amazing, somebody else thinks is not so amazing. And how do you know what they were really expecting? And so that's why you have to be very, very clear in your description and on whatever booking site you're going to be on, is just make sure you spell out everything they're going to get and how they're going to get it and how they're going to get in and where they're going to park and all of those things. And so you're going to try to deflect all of that before it becomes a question. So, So Joey wants to know, do you do any additional vetting outside of what Airbnb or VRBO does? I do not, because I allow for bookings at any time. And once the booking is there, I don't really have any reason to turn it down. It's so hard on a booking to say whether it's a good one or a bad one just by getting a reservation online. What about you, Michael? What do you think about that as far as the vetting?
Yeah, I believe it's with the strict cancellation policy, or the way that we have the booking set up. Again, my wife has set up most of the stuff. So, but through Airbnb, they won't allow instant booking unless they have 5-star reviews and their ID, identification verified. And so if they don't have those things, it's a new account or they have a less than desirable review and it's hurt their reviews. Then it turns it into a request and we can take a look at it. We can look at their reviews and things like that. And so that's the only work that we've ever done. We haven't, looked at their IDs or had them send us any other additional information. We haven't had a bad stay really yet.
I agree. Now, there are some Facebook Airbnb sites, and if you follow some of those, you're thinking, who are these people? I've read some of those and I'm thinking, I've never had a guest like that. And they're like, oh, the guests were messy. And then again, sometimes when I look at the host, they'll say, oh, this guest totally trashed my unit. And then they'll post pictures and there's like towels on the floor.
Right.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's all relative. So, just know. And again, I have a background in hotel management, and I worked at Port Columbus at the hotels on airport proper there in Columbus. And so I have a little bit of background in the hotel industry. And so I've been in and out of a lot of sleeping rooms and seen them after guests have checked out. And it's not uncommon to have, a pile of linen in the corner or towels piled in the shower or whatever. And that's just normal, the way some folks travel. And that's okay. I think the worst that I've had is that someone moved the furniture around in the room. Okay, well, they didn't break anything. They just moved the furniture around in the room and I moved it back. So that was like the worst I think I've had so far. How about you, Adam? And again, the management company does.
The management company does it. I hear about it because this is what it's like when you're an owner and you just have a management company run everything. You get a bill at the end of the month. Well, it used to be a bill because it used to be Airbnb or VRBO or whoever would pay me directly, and then I would pay the management company. Now we have it set up that all the money goes to the management company, and then they send me an itemized bill at the end of the month and then deposit money into my account for whatever happened that month. But every once in a while, they'll be like $25 for frying pans because somebody stole frying pans. And it's like, how is that? Who does that? Why did they do that?
A thing?
How's that a thing? And I mean, and then it's like, well, okay, why are we not like doing an inventory of frying pans? But then it's like, okay, in 2 years, I've had one time where people stole frying pans, and I don't know who it is, and I can't go after them, but it is what it is, But that's been one of the weirder ones. This was cool. So as far as like bad guests, it was an almost bad guest. And so, Airbnb and VRBO, they really discourage parties and events and things like that in their place. And we had a guy who said, hey, I live in Columbus. I just need to stay there for a night. I'm getting my house fumigated. And we're like, okay. So the property management company, they did a review of the guy's like social media, and he posted pictures of the house. And he's like, come to my party. It's going to be a rager. And yeah, we didn't give them the code to get in. So luckily they were able to thwart that. And that in and of itself was worth a lot to me, to have a management company that would even think to do something like that. Because, you know, it was like one of my very first bookings. And I'm like, oh, well, this is great. Look at this booking. It's good. And, you know, so that was narrowly averted by their social media team, like going out and reviewing and making sure that somebody's not trying to plan a party.
Interesting. That is very interesting. So the only thing I had is I had a local that booked the room and then sent me a message through Airbnb that said, I'm coming to get you. And I'm like,
spooky.
So I did a little research and I discovered that he booked the room for his aunt and he thought that she would get the message that said he
That's funny.
Is that funny?
That's good.
So the message was, I'm coming to get you. It was meant for Aunt Matilda, that he was coming to get her. So anyway, it's all good. So
yeah,
we've had a wonderful time. Thank you so much. We've put our contact information in there. And again, as the chat thread scrolls, sometimes it's hard, to scroll back and find it. So I'm going to ask each one of you, and there's mine, kathybenner.com. Just throw at least a one-liner in the chat again, so folks can connect with Michael and connect with Adam. So toss your information back in there one last time. And my website is the easiest for me. It has everything in my website. And you can get to the Academy, the International Academy, through my website as well. And there's Adam and there's Michael. And so I just want to say thanks to everyone that tapped in tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. And again, I started the meeting off in our meetup group. We are on meetup.com under the same heading, the ins and outs of starting a B&B. And we have 598 members over in meetup.com. On Facebook, we have a Facebook group also by the same name, the ins and outs of starting a B&B, and we have 308 members there. We had 152 registered for the call tonight that are going to either tap in or follow up on the replay. And then our podcast had 948 views as of last month. So thank you guys for participating with us. We're glad that you were here. And Michael, thank you so much. And so with that, I'm going to sneak down here and stop the recording.